Good morning. Um, we have been able to trade last week at the end of the day. Maybe Thursday was some kind of indication. Friday it did try to break out. The problem now is trade in Nifty future more or less above 7,850, and more importantly closing above 7850 will give some kind of indication that it can trade bit higher. So present technical pattern suggests that we should be able to do it. We should be able to do it. And in case Nifty refuses to move above 7850, one can always sell futures with stop loss above 7935. So there are relevant figures like resistance wise in Nifty future 7870 and 7935. Now if it can trade above 7935, then we are definitely into a medium term uptrend. We are sub 7800. Why I am putting up these larger ranges? For reasons like we have 3 pure trading days between Monday and Wednesday, and Thursday's stock market closure. But the issue is that Thursday night we have US Fed possibly deciding on interest rate hike or not. So it's a big event worldwide, and thereby larger ranges are created. So if we talk about the upside of the range, which is 793550, let's say, we are also talking about the support closer to about 7700. So we are talking about a 250 points range, and that is possible. What will happen if Fed hikes rates, and what will happen if it doesn't? I think up to 25 basis points in Fed rate hike is already discounted in the market, and if they choose to defer the rate hike, then the uncertainty will be over. So in both cases, it seems to be a bull case scenario as of now, unless some new thing surfaces. There's a lot of talk about Brazil all of a sudden, and that's something new I find. What really relevance it would have with India, I am not too sure. But Brazil is a word being spoken around, I find, these days. But I think Brazil is not the question as of now. I think America or US Fed is and going to be the deciding factor. So as I was saying, that if a 25 basis rate hike happens, it's well priced in the market. There could be initial blips, but then quick recovery to follow. And if there's no rate hike, then anyway the recovery happens. So as I was saying, it's a bull case scenario for next week's trading. But stops will not work, because it will be a Friday big morning gap up, not a big gap down, but a big gap up. So I suspect that while it trades Monday onwards, we could look at buying less expensive calls, maybe a 8,000 strike call, and find out what our luck is. If my logic is correct, then there's no luck, it's a strategy. And if my logic is not correct, then the strategy fails. That's all about it. The money making idea is all about creating positions and wait for the best to happen. Bank Nifty is a bit better in terms of having closed above 16,600. It is talking about trying to go up types. The leader in the pack, if Bank Nifty has to move up, has to be a combination of ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Axis Bank, and a bit of support from the PSU banks. I don't really see a lot of supports happening out of a PSU bank, and quite rightly so, because PSU banks are still under the range. But I think the worst of PSU bank story is quite well priced in. And when we talk about NPAs and other things, we might talk about that, but it will be a repetition of the same old story, which doesn't hold good for the market. We have buy syndromes in quite a bit of stocks as of Friday closing. Now, interestingly, if I if I look at some of the names, এগুলো জিজ্ঞেস করে এগুলো কি, দাসকে জিজ্ঞেস করে এগুলো কি। I mean, Yes Bank is a buy, IndusInd Bank is a buy, a Bank Nifty itself is a buy under some technical parameters. So why all these buys have got generated between Thursday and Friday? We do not know the reasons, but technicals to be believed.
Martin will buy.
And I've got a whole list of names. Interesting names for me would be, which can change the mood or might change the mood. Is Maruti Suzuki. Now, as I was saying about Maruti Suzuki, and it's trying to trade with about 40-50 rupees intraday gains here and there. Now trading above 4250 is strong, and trading above 4350 is much more stronger. there will be some resistance here and there for 30-40 rupees retracement, so not to really get bothered about it. It's in a buy mode, and so retracements has to be bought in Maruti. I think the master stop is about 100 rupees lower, about 4,200. IIP data came on Friday, and I think market, well, might say two ways. The July IIP is good, so it's improving. That is also, if you look at the indirect tax collections, it says that India Incorporated is doing a bit better. But then that reduces the chance of interest rates. But if there's a dose of interest rate reduction at a 7% GDP growth, it will really pep up the market. So my question is, do we aggressively buy in this market? You see, just go into, and this is what I taught in the seminar, that from the recent peak, recent high, whichever stock which you like, if it has retraced by about 30-35%, you can enter the stock. Okay. I'll just give you an example. Let's say one of my favorites, Tata Elxsi. Now, you see, this was the recent high, which is about 2300. Now, as I said, if I had to take 30-35% out, 2300 into 30% minus, it is about 1610. So here we got about 1655, and the next day we got about 1555. Let's say 1600. So using that formula, if you had bought here, let's say 1600 rupees, you would have got it about 1900 to sell. So you find out your own stock where you are positive. Use more or less this formula. Of course, there are some here and there riders are not here to take classes. That reminds me, 4th of October, I'll do a one-day future and options strategy workshop. The fees would be about 2000 rupees. It's a Sunday. It will start at around 11 o'clock in the morning and will end about 6 p.m. in the evening, with a break of, let's say, 1 hour during lunch sessions. It is not important that you have to be a player in future to understand futures and options workshop. It is important for you to understand that how the main market really functions, on the basis of which cash market is dependent in very many times. Though cash market is the ASTI market, the real market, but then the derivatives markets, the bigger players are there with the options, and that gives you a fair bit of idea about the markets as to how it will shape up going forward. So thereby the knowledge of futures and options is required for you to handle the market. Anyway, coming back to mid cap, let's say I had been recommending a stock, Granules. That was about what, 60-70 rupees, and it went up to about 130. Now let's look at Granules. Now this was the high of 134. Okay. So if you take out 134 as the high, and how much do you have to deduct? 30%, let's say. It should technically come around 94. Now after that, it came down here up to only 101. It never did below that. And again moved up to 130. Again moved down to 103. And again moved up to 117. Now, assuming that granules is there in your mind in the mid-cap pharma sector, use all these retracements and buy, and you get lovely money-making ideas. I tell you what, about 8-10% per week, 8-10% per week, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, the question is, I had built up some portfolio about a month and a half back, and it was ill-timed in terms of entry point. And all those are great stocks, but they are suffering by 7 to 11% on an average, which means having exhausted the money, I cannot enter where I should have entered. So if you have a situation like this, what do? You at best sell it when the price equates to a purchase value and wait for some other movement, or once it reaches the price, check up your technical charts, and if it's a momentum upward buy, then just hold on to the portfolio. But the opportunities which comes out of these retracements are absolutely huge. So I give you a Tata Helix example, and I give you a granules example. Now, Yes Bank is in a buy. Let's look at Yes Bank. Roughly 710.12 is the price as of the closing of Friday. Now, as long as this stock does not move above 730, though it's in a buy mode, if it goes up, the only way to trade is to sell and keep a stop of 730. Simple as that. Now what is the 730? It is a point of Fibonacci retracements, pullback, resistance. Now the guys who know a bit of technical will be able to understand my language, but I'm refrain from using too much of technical language, because that doesn't mean anything to an ordinary viewer. He's interested in building a portfolio, buying a portfolios. There's a sense in me that market is going to bottom out this month. When, I don't know, or has it already bottomed out? I don't know. But during this month, it's going to bottom out. So get prepared for buying the dips and use the dips to accumulate, and you'll get wonderful results by November. I'm too sure about it. So coming back to Yes Bank, that's a trading idea. Now similarly, if you are dabbling into an IndusInd Bank future, it has resistance at about 880 levels. Take 5 rupees here and there, doesn't matter. When I say 880, you take it as 890. You don't have to be so pinpointed. It's a zone we talk about. There are people who talk about exact figures. I don't know why and what for. It's not a Bata shoe that it has to be 599 point, whatever it is. So we talk about what? 600 rupees shoe. We don't say 599.95. It's a 600 rupiya ka juta, or that kind of a story. So I suspect that this range of 880 to 890 for IndusInd Bank will create a huge resistance. Let's say look at State Bank of India. Unless it's closing above 240, nothing is going to happen. So whenever it goes up, you sell. and get it back lower. So State Bank is again a short on the higher side. But at the same time, the shorting business is getting over. So maybe above 240 is a better idea to buy for the purpose of. No, I think the bigger question is that do I go long in State Bank of India at all? I suspect no. But then it's a trading idea. You can always use a trading idea to go long. But let's look at Wockhardt Pharma, which did a good job last week, but then it's in sell mode. Wockhardt Pharma. I'll use the futures. That was 10th of September, and we are not going to be 11th price. I mean, it's not updated, but then I know the price is about somewhere here. 1380 and all that. So 1380 happens to be, you see, I just had drawn the line, and that's where it has got resisted. But it's getting prepared. After this big fall, there has been a bit of accumulation in this zone. Now it has started breaking out, and it's now assuming it starts trading above 1400 and crosses this resistance on the top about 1430, then we will surely get into this zone. 1500, 1550, something like that. We'll get into that zone. So, Wockhardt Pharma, after having broken this trend line, we'll try to capture the trend line which is right now posed at 1530, let's say. Once it crosses 1530, Wockhardt Pharma can go up to 1750. Now, viewers, you have to be self-sufficient. You have to understand your technicals yourself. It is not a hand-holding exercise every point of time. I see fear all across. People are skeptical about stocks. But then, you must appreciate that Bank Nifty has moved up by 1,000 points while you were skeptical about it. And that's not of money making, provided you have bought it. I am too sure no one bought it. But by sheer principle of opportunity buying, I think we have to keep our mind steady and wait for certain buys. Suven Life Science at this point of time could be picked up. Suven Life Science, which is about 235 types. It had done about 330, 35, something like that. Well corrected. And now again trying to crawl back. Now if you are buying at 230, do you put a stop? Not really. You are buying as a delivery buy as an investor, and you may have to add lower if it comes down. But going forward, the resistance or where it could get resisted is about 255, 260 levels, followed by about 280, 285 levels. And Suven Life Science could be a good idea. I would dare to recommend a small stock called Merck Electronics, which is at about 50.5 rupee, the Onida brand. We'll keep a stop of 13.5, 2 rupees stop. So penny stock, I'm very confident that some point of time the Oneida brand will be taken over and they will have to pay a good price. It's a pretty well-known brand, and I don't see a reason why one cannot pick it up. But then, they are dangerous stocks otherwise also, and not really worth for good investors. But then for the adventurous investors, Mark Electronics can be bought at 15.5, and maybe 20, 21, 22 times you could sell should it go up there. I find there's a buy in Bharat Heavy Electric, but then I am not interested. It's at 217. Now if you are interested, buy above 222 and put a stop of 217, or if you are buying at 217, put a stop of 212. Very simple as that. I'm not really bad in that, but then one never knows that it might do something well. Now Bharat ARPU was BABL. I'm not just getting BABL at 1050. I don't know why, it just doesn't tend to come, but let me check it out. I always had to keep in mind that BEML. It did come. See, this was a prefix price of mine. I thought I'll always buy there. And here was 1600, and here was 1060. I always wanted to buy at 1060. I forgot about it. Now this has become a buy now. At about 1200 rupees, it's a buy signal generally. You see the signal? And it's a buy. So it makes sense to buy a BEML. Now what would you put the stop? Maybe 50 rupees lower from here. So say 1150, BEML is a buy. What I'm trying to say by these kind of definition, there's kind of a bottoming out process going, and some have done their corrections, have bottomed out. Some are in the process of bottoming out, and some are now creating a medium-term uptrend. All this leads to believe that the market is bottoming out in September. You cannot go on selling on the same agenda of US Fed interest and this and that. It dies down quite a bit. So I would now try to wind up saying that be vigilant this week. Something is happening in the market. Market should bottom out in September, followed by an uptrend, and don't miss this opportunity. Thank you for watching the show.